So in this video, I want to do the same thing we did with the large bowel, but this time for the small intestine. We'll look at its role and functions, common small intestine related diseases and disorders, how these conditions affect everyday life, and the honest truth about natural healing support. Then we'll connect that to what ancient medical traditions understood about digestion, balance, and the gut, and how modern science is now revisiting some of those ideas in a more evidence-based way. What the small intestine actually does? The small intestine is the main place where digestion is completed and where most nutrient absorption happens. According to NIDK, the small intestine makes digestive juice that mixes with bile and pancreatic juice to complete the breakdown of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. It also absorbs most of the nutrients from your food, and those nutrients then pass into the bloodstream so the body can use them or store them. In simple language, if the stomach is where food is churned and prepared, the small intestine is where food is truly processed and taken into the body. That means the small intestine is not just another tube in the digestive tract. It is one of the most important surfaces in the whole body for nourishment. If the small intestine is inflamed, damaged, shortened, blocked, or overwhelmed by the wrong bacteria, the body may stop absorbing nutrients properly. And when that happens, symptoms can show up not just as stomach discomfort, but as fatigue, diarrhea, weight loss, poor nutrition, vitamin deficiencies, dehydration, and general weakness. That is why small intestine health matters so much more than people realize. Section 2. Why the small intestine is so important for healing. If you think about healing, every part of healing depends on nutrients. Your body needs amino acids, fats, vitamins, minerals, water, and calories to repair tissue, support immunity, make hormones, maintain muscle, and keep the nervous system working. Since the small intestine is where most of that absorption happens, problems here can affect the whole body. NIDK's short bowel syndrome guidance makes this very clear. When the small intestine is shortened or damaged and cannot absorb enough nutrients, people can develop malabsorption, dehydration, low vitamin and mineral levels, malnutrition, and weight loss. So when people say, "I'm eating healthy but I still feel weak," part of the question is not only what they eat, but whether the body is actually able to absorb and use it. The small intestine is where that decision is made. That is why so many small bowel conditions are not just digestive issues, they become whole body issues. Section 3. Common small intestine-related diseases and disorders. Let's start with one of the most important, celiac disease. NIDK defines celiac disease as a chronic digestive and immune disorder that damages the small intestine. It is triggered by eating gluten, a protein found naturally in wheat, barley, and rye. Celiac disease can cause long-lasting digestive problems and can stop the body from getting all the nutrients it needs. It is different from simple gluten sensitivity because celiac disease actually damages the small intestine. The main treatment for celiac disease is not a supplement, not a detox, and not an herbal cleanse. It is a strict gluten-free diet for life. NIDK says that following a gluten-free diet can relieve symptoms, heal damage to the small intestine, and prevent more damage. Many foods are naturally gluten-free, including fruits, vegetables, rice, potatoes, beans, fish, meat, and foods made from gluten-free ingredients such as nuts, quinoa, buckwheat, cassava, and corn. At the same time, NIDK warns not to start a gluten-free diet before getting tested if celiac disease is suspected, because it can affect the accuracy of diagnosis. So, from a natural support point of view, celiac disease gives us one of the clearest examples of food as medicine, but in a very specific way. The natural remedy is not vague, it is precise. Remove gluten completely, protect the intestine from repeat injury, and build meals around naturally gluten-free whole foods. That means things like potatoes, rice, beans, vegetables, fruits, and nut-based gluten-free flours can become part of a very practical healing pattern. But the honesty matters here. If you truly have celiac disease, even small hidden amounts of gluten can keep the small intestine inflamed. The next major condition is Crohn's disease, which often affects the small intestine, especially the last part of it. NIDK describes Crohn's disease as a chronic disease that causes inflammation in the digestive tract. Symptoms vary from person to person and may include diarrhea, abdominal cramping, pain, and weight loss. NIDK also notes that doctors treat Crohn's with medicines and sometimes surgery with the goal of decreasing inflammation, preventing flares, and keeping the person in remission. Now, this is where people often get misled online. There is no one universal Crohn's diet that cures everyone. NIDK says researchers have not found that specific foods cause or worsen Crohn's disease symptoms in all people. Instead, doctors may suggest a food diary to identify personal triggers, and some experts believe the microbiome may play a role. NIDK also says eating a variety of healthy foods can improve healthy bacteria in the gut, and a doctor may recommend eating more fruits and vegetables. So the natural support here is personal, structured, and supportive, not magical. That means if someone has Crohn's, natural support may involve building meals around tolerated whole foods, keeping a careful food diary, staying hydrated, and getting dietitian help if absorption is poor. Specific foods that may fit into a gentle, nutrient-dense pattern can include cooked vegetables, potatoes, rice, bananas, applesauce, softer fruits, and nut butters if tolerated, but the key principle from NIDK is that diet should be individualized and nutritionally adequate, especially when the body is not absorbing nutrients well. Nutritional supplements and vitamins may also be needed when absorption is poor. That is why eat clean is far too simplistic for a condition like Crohn's. Another important condition is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, often called SIBO. MedlinePlus defines this as a condition in which very large numbers of bacteria grow in the small intestine. Normally, the small intestine does not contain large numbers of bacteria the way the large intestine does. When too many bacteria grow there, they can use up nutrients, damage the lining of the small intestine, and make it harder for the body to absorb nutrients. Common symptoms include fullness, pain, bloating, watery diarrhea, gas, fatty stool, and weight loss. This is a good example of why not every gut problem should be treated with random probiotics or gut health powders from social media. MedlinePlus says treatment for SIBO focuses on treating the cause and may include antibiotics, medicines that improve intestinal movement, IV fluids, or nutritional support in severe cases. A lactose-free diet can help some people, but the core treatment is still medical. Natural support can help the environment around the problem, but it does not replace diagnosis and targeted treatment. Another serious condition involving the small intestine is short bowel syndrome. NIDK says this develops when the small intestine is shortened or damaged and can't absorb enough nutrients from food to maintain health. It often happens after part of the small intestine has been removed surgically or when the remaining bowel is too damaged to function well. Complications can include dehydration, low vitamin and mineral levels, malnutrition, growth problems in children, and other digestive complications. Here, natural healing language needs to be used very carefully. In short bowel syndrome, whole foods alone are often not enough. Some people need specialized diets, supplements, or even parenteral nutrition. So while food quality still matters, this is not a condition to self-manage with internet advice. The body may literally be unable to absorb what it needs without medical support. The natural lesson here is not, try harder with vegetables. The lesson is that the small intestine is essential for absorption, and when it is badly compromised, professional treatment becomes central. There is also the more urgent problem of intestinal obstruction or pseudo-obstruction. NIDK says intestinal pseudo-obstruction happens when nerve or muscle problems slow or stop the movement of food, fluid, air, and waste through the intestines. Symptoms may include abdominal pain, bloating, nausea, vomiting, constipation, or diarrhea, and NIDK warns that severe or persistent symptoms need urgent medical attention, because they can look like an obstruction which can become life-threatening without treatment. That is important because some symptoms that people try to heal naturally are actually warning signs. Severe vomiting, inability to keep food down, severe abdominal swelling, extreme pain, or inability to pass stool or gas are not signs to do a cleanse or drink another herbal tea. They are signs to get assessed. Natural health has value, but it must respect red flags. Section 4. Natural support for the small intestine. So what does natural support for the small intestine actually look like when we remove the hype? First, it means supporting digestion with food that matches the condition. For celiac disease, that means strict gluten avoidance and building meals around naturally gluten-free foods such as fruits, vegetables, potatoes, rice, beans, and foods made from nuts or other gluten-free ingredients. For Crohn's disease, it means a healthy, balanced diet tailored to tolerance with a food diary if needed, plus extra nutritional support when absorption is low. For SIBO, it means not self-diagnosing and not assuming that probiotics or fermented foods will solve the problem. Second, natural support means choosing specific foods that are easy to build into a real routine. For people needing naturally gluten-free options, fruits, vegetables, potatoes, rice, beans, and nut-based flours are strong foundations. For broader digestive support, gentle whole food meals built around cooked vegetables, simple starches, fruit, and tolerated healthy fats may be easier on the gut than ultra-processed, heavily fried, or very chaotic eating patterns. The exact list will vary by condition, but the small intestine generally does better when the diet is calm, consistent, and built around foods the person actually tolerates. Third, hydration matters. When the small intestine is not absorbing properly, dehydration can become part of the picture, especially in conditions with diarrhea or malabsorption. NIDK lists dehydration among the complications of short bowel syndrome, and many small bowel disorders can leave people losing fluid faster than they realize. So, natural support is not just about what is on the plate, it is also about whether enough fluid is getting in, and whether the body is actually keeping it. There is also a lot of interest in probiotics and the microbiome. NCCIH says researchers are actively studying diet microbiome interactions, and that some probiotic formulations have shown promise in research, but strong scientific evidence for most probiotic uses is still lacking. So a balanced message for your audience is this: the microbiome matters, but the science is still evolving, and people should be careful not to treat probiotics as a universal answer for every small intestine problem. So if you want practical examples of specific fruits, vegetables, and nuts to mention in the script, here is a sensible, condition-aware way to frame them. Potatoes and rice as reliable gluten-free staples for celiac disease. Bananas, apples or applesauce, and softer fruits as gentle options some people find easier to tolerate during digestive upset. Cooked vegetables and simple soups when the gut feels sensitive. And nuts or nut-based flours as useful gluten-free options when tolerated. But the message has to stay honest. These foods can support recovery patterns, not replace diagnosis or disease-specific treatment. Section 5. Ancient medical traditions, from old times to modern times. Long before modern gastroenterology, many traditional medical systems treated digestion as one of the foundations of health. WHO's Global Traditional Medicine Strategy for 2025 to 2034 explicitly recognizes the growing role of traditional, complementary, and integrative medicine, and calls for evidence-based integration, safety, regulation, and stronger research, rather than blind acceptance or rejection. In Ayurveda, digestion and elimination have long been treated as central to health and disease. A 2024 review on Ayurvedic therapies and the microbiome found that the research is still at a nascent stage. Some herbs and therapies have been studied for microbiome effects, including therapeutic purgation and medicated enema practices, but the review says the evidence is still too limited for firm conclusions. That is useful, because it gives us a mature way to talk about ancient traditions, respectful, interested, but not exaggerated. So the modern lesson is not that ancient medicine had every answer. The lesson is that many old traditions correctly saw a link between digestion, routine, food quality, and whole body health. Modern science is now exploring parts of that connection in terms of nutrient absorption, inflammation, gut bacteria, and immune function. Where old wisdom and modern medicine meet best is in simple principles. Respect digestion, avoid chronic dietary chaos, build meals around real food, and use evidence when disease becomes serious. So let's bring this together. The small intestine is one of the most important organs for turning food into nourishment. It completes digestion, absorbs most nutrients, and plays a major role in hydration and whole body health. When it is damaged or disrupted, problems like celiac disease, Crohn's disease, SIBO, short bowel syndrome, and obstruction-related disorders can lead to pain, bloating, diarrhea, malabsorption, fatigue, dehydration, and weight loss. And the natural support is not mysterious. It is condition-specific, evidence-aware, and practical. It may mean strict gluten-free eating for celiac disease. It may mean a personalized food diary and nutritional support for Crohn's disease. It may mean avoiding self-treatment and getting medical care for SIBO, obstruction, or severe malabsorption. It may mean building meals around simple, tolerated whole foods, such as fruits, vegetables, potatoes, rice, beans, and nuts where appropriate. But above all, it means understanding that the small intestine is not just part of digestion. It is one of the body's great gateways to nourishment and healing. That is the real message of natural healing here. Support the gut wisely, respect symptoms early, and never confuse supportive nutrition with a substitute for diagnosis. Ancient traditions taught that digestion matters. Modern medicine agrees, but adds something essential. When the small intestine is under real disease stress, precision matters just as much as philosophy.